No,
Hi, Astrid. Let me just change your name. Astrid, what is your last name?
Campos.
Astrid Campos. All right. Okay. All right. Oops. Okay, so thank you very much for coming, everybody. We are going to begin our session for today, which we've named Navigating the Graduate School Application Process. I'm Daniel Scarnati, your Education USA advisor from Monterrey. Today we have Jennifer Hunter from Rice University. We've got Chung-Ying Chow as well from Rice University, and Astrid Campos. I don't know why I'm saying this every time I'm presenting, but yes, also from Rice University. Let's begin as we usually do. Oh, first, let me just ask you if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end where we can answer your questions. So let's begin. See if I can change the slides. There you go. All right. So what is Education USA? So if you don't know us yet, we are a global network of advising centers. We are part of the US State Department, part of the US government, and we are your official source on US higher education. We have 23 Education USA advising centers in Mexico, one here in Monterrey at Relaciones Culturales. And what we do is we give free access to introductory information on US study. Our targets are higher education institutions, students, governments, and NGOs. And our mission is to give you accurate, comprehensive, and current information about the full range of accredited US higher education institutions. What do we do? Well, for you, what we do is we give free advice and services. So all of our services are free. We divide our services into three categories: in-center, outreach, and virtual. So in-center is everything we do in person here at our center in Monterrey, which is at Relaciones Culturales. I should mention that for the past 2 years, we've been doing everything virtually, and beginning this year, we have been authorized to do offer all of our services in person as well. So we are back to our center in person. We give info sessions here, just as this one, but in person. We have one-on-one sessions. We have workshops, and we have official materials and guides for studying in the United States. Our second category is outreach. This is when your advisor, in this case me, when we go out of our center and we visit, for example, local education institutions. Also, sometimes if we go to fairs. So what we do is we give info sessions, we participate in workshops, or we give workshops, and we participate at mobility fairs. And the third category is virtual, which is what we've been doing for the past 2 years, and we will continue doing as well for you. We can give one-on-one virtual sessions, webinars, fairs, and seminars. It is important to mention that your center in Monterrey services the states of Nuevo León, Coahuila, Durango, Zacatecas, and Tamaulipas. So that's why we, in part, we have that virtual category still. And also for everybody here in Monterrey who don't, if you don't want to come over here and you want to do this virtually, we can do that as well. And so what we do here at Education USA is we divide the process, the admissions process for universities in the United States. We divide them into 5 steps. So the first step is research your options. I should mention that we help you out through each and every one of these steps. So research your options is basically finding the university that is the best fit for you. Step number 2 is financing your studies, and this is something that should be done as earlier as possible, which is basically creating a budget and seeing if you can pay for your studies, and if not, if you're going to need some financial aid, this is where you start planning for it. Step number 3 is completing your application. This is where you going to get into the studying for your exams, presenting exams, writing essays, your letters of recommendation, your transcripts, your resume, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the part where you do most of the work. Once you've submitted your application and you have an admissions letter, a letter of acceptance, then you can apply for your visa, which is step number 4. And finally, step number 5 is prepare for your departure. Here in preparing for your departure, we give what we call PDOs, pre-departure orientations, where we can give you all of the necessary information for you to make the easiest transition from Mexico to the United States, and giving you tips on what to do when you arrive and how to overcome culture shock, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure to look for us and ask for our services from the very beginning. If you have already begun, don't worry, we can pick up from where you have already started. So this is, that's it for me. Now I'm going to pass it to Jennifer. Go ahead, Jennifer. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you
You're
so much,
welcome.
Daniel. Yes, thank you. My name is Jennifer Hunter. I work in the Office of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies at Rice University. And just thank you so much, Daniel, and to Education USA Monterrey for opening their virtual doors to us this evening. And we're really grateful for the opportunity to get to meet with you today. So the topic that we're going to cover is pretty broad. We're going to talk a little bit about those first 3 services that Daniel mentioned. So researching your options, financing your studies, and the application process in general. So I'll go through those things, and then we'll open up the floor to questions and talk about what's on your mind. But let's go ahead and go to the next slide, if you don't mind. All right, so this is my contact information, along with some of the groups that I work with. You are welcome to reach out to me anytime if you have questions come up and you'd like more information. But I have been at Rice University for about 8 years now. If you don't know Rice, it is in Houston, Texas, and it's a great place to live. Rice is a great place to work, and I have some really awesome people that I work with, and 2 of them are here this evening. One of the groups that I work with is our Graduate Student Ambassadors group. And that's the group that you see in the picture here. They are a group of students from all over the world, all different academic backgrounds. So if you really want to know about a specific program or what it's like to study in the US, they would be happy to speak to you. And that's that first link that you see on the slide there. But I also wanted Chen Ying and Astrid to introduce themselves. They are both current graduate students here at Rice. So maybe if you would just let us know, your name, your field of study, where you're from, and why you decided to pursue graduate study in the US. And I'll start with Chen Ying. You're first on my list.
Hi everyone. My name is Chen Ying. Good morning, good afternoon, and maybe good evening for your country. Right now, it's good morning in my country, in Taiwan right now. I'm a 3rd-year PhD student in environmental engineering, and my research is about air pollution. And the reason I choose Rice is 2 reasons. The first reason is because Rice has a lot of resource for the research. And also, I like a big city like Houston. It's a very diverse city. And that's the reason I choose Rice. Good to see everyone.
And Astrid, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Astrid. I am studying my PhD in material science, and this is my third year. I'm also from Monterrey. I am from Universidad Autónoma de Nuevo León. And I chose RISE because I love the interaction between academia and industry, and also I love the community and how welcome we are, like, as Latin American students in the universities. I really love that.
Thank you. And thank you both for being here this evening. And we can skip ahead, not the next slide, but actually the one after that. All right. So show of hands. Is anyone currently applying to graduate school? All right. Has anyone decided, yes, I'm going to apply next year. I have a plan. I'm going to do this. Okay, so one person applying next year for sure. Everyone else kind of still thinking about it is what I'm gathering. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Grad school can be a significant time commitment. It can be a significant financial commitment. So definitely, researching your options, make sure you consider it carefully. What you want your trajectory to be is a really good plan. So good that you all are thinking about it and trying to make smart decisions for yourselves. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so why graduate school? Like we talked about, this is going to be a big decision that's going to affect a year or a few years of your life. And so you'll want to think about all of the different reasons there are to get a graduate degree. There's a few of the reasons listed here, of course, but there's many more than this. Maybe you want to get more research experience and go on to have a career in research or academia. You want to be a university professor. Maybe you want to get more research or mastery to earn more money in your chosen career. Whatever you decide on that's your reason for grad school, make sure you understand why you want to get a graduate degree. Would anyone in the chat be interested in sharing why they want to get a grad degree? And no pressure. I know when I pursued my master's degree, I really wanted to get more experience because I thought that would help me get a different job in a different field. And that was useful. And that's what worked for me. So just, keep considering why you want to pursue graduate study. But of course, the foundational reason for all of you is going to be to acquire more knowledge. And ultimately, your decision really should come down to your goals, whether that's to accomplish a career goal or if you're just curious about how the world works. So let's go on to the next slide. All right, so you've decided on grad school. Where do you start? Where do you go from here? The first thing to do is to begin your research into what schools are right for you. But there are a lot of schools out there. So how do you narrow down that search? And there's a few ways you can do it. Many people turn to rankings as an indicator, and rankings can be important, but they can also be flawed. So what's most important is, what do you want to do with your life and career? Who's doing work that inspires you? And where is the best place that will support your success? Admissions requirements can be a good thing to think about, and we'll talk more about that in a bit, but you should really think about the type of program and the specialization that a program offers. If you don't know what to do or what you want to do yet, that's okay as well. Think about the breadth that you want to pursue, the breadth of knowledge you want to acquire. But if you do have a specialization in mind, keep in mind that you should look for programs that do offer those things that you want. Internship opportunities can be really important. Ask the programs that you're applying to, will you help me find an internship? Are there alumni out there who will help me connect with their companies and their organizations? This can be a really great thing to look for in a potential master's program or even a PhD program. Funding opportunities are also really important. So if you have the opportunity to apply for fellowships like the Fulbright Fellowship, this is an excellent thing to pursue. These fellowships provide funding. They might give you an edge in your application. And that can be a really great thing to tell faculty members that you're talking to. I'm applying to these fellowships. Even if you don't win them, it shows that just by applying, you're willing to put yourself out there. So that's a really valuable thing to think about. And then finally, I think, above all, you want to look for a supportive location, a supportive community. You want to look for a location that you're going to be happy as well. I really like working at Rice because the grad community here is small. And as a staff member, I feel very supported by the faculty, by the other staff members, and, of course, by the students that I work with. I think it's a really happy and warm place to be. Speaking of warm places, I am from Florida originally, so I know that I would not want to be in the north where it snows a lot. I'm very happy here in Houston where the weather is warm. And so if that's something that's important to you, think about those things as well. A lot of students will start to research graduate schools and will put all of these data points into one big spreadsheet. And these are some important data points to include, but you're going to have your own. So for example, weather is a big one for me. If you like going to the gym, maybe a great gym nearby at the campus is going to be important to you. Maybe you'll want to make sure that you have good transportation or things like that. So think about what's important to you for a few years of your life that you're going to be spending in this city while you get your grad degree. All right, next slide, please. All right, so the things, yep, that was right. The things that you want to start noting when you're doing your research into different programs. What programs are a good fit? That's going to be a very personal decision. But the more tangible things are, what do you need to apply? What documents do you need to have prepared? Do you need to get 3 letters of recommendation or 4? When is the application deadline? All of these things about the application process are really important to keep note of for each program that you're applying to. Take careful note of the resources that you are offered. And it's not really just about, the usual resources that you would get from a university. Are there good well-being resources? Do they have healthcare subsidies for insurance? Are there things that are going to support you and make it a better experience for you while you're in graduate school? But going back to, of course, where are you going to be happy, supported, and championed? This is a really important thing to think about when you're talking to different grad programs. All right, so let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so things that you can do now to prep. I know that one person at least was really considering grad school in the next year. Some of you might still be deciding if you want to go ahead and pursue this or not. And so things that you can do now to help you prepare and to help you make that decision would be read some journals, especially if you want to pursue a research degree. Reading journals will give you an idea of what's happening in the chosen field of study that you have, what the writing is going to be like for grad school, because grad school, as Chun Ying and Astrid can tell you, grad school is a lot of writing. And so reading these journals, you'll get a feel for how people write in grad school and what that process is like. If you haven't done research yet and you're applying for a research degree, it's never too late to pursue research opportunities. We've had students, even if you've already graduated from your undergrad institution, if you have a university nearby who would allow you to come into the lab and learn the research process, you certainly can do that. There's plenty of summer opportunities out there as well, so certainly that could be a great place to start also. And if you're currently in university, there's no reason that you can't go into a lab and ask if there is a way for you to join that lab and participate in the research that's happening there. Of course, researching the schools, we've already talked about the schools and what they focus in, because each school will have different focus areas and different areas of specialty. For research degrees, you'll want to look into faculty research projects. So when you're considering a graduate program, think about what you want to do ultimately, and make sure that there are faculty there who are doing that research. Because if there's only one faculty member at a university that's doing what you want to do, it may not be a good fit. You don't always know if that professor is taking students or if they have funding to take students. So it's really good to think about schools that have maybe 2 to 3 people at least that are doing work that you would be interested in doing. So that's a really good thing to start researching when you're looking at different programs. And then, of course, applying to fellowships, make sure to put yourself out there. It never hurts to apply, and you get great guidance from Education USA, especially on things like Fulbright. Next slide, please. Okay, so seeking advice, you're already in great hands because you're here tonight. You've been talking to Education USA, and they are going to be the ultimate guide and advisor for you as you go through this process of applying. So keep in touch with your advisors and make sure that they know what you're thinking. They can help you with any questions that you have. You can also talk to your current faculty advisors and ask them about the grad school process and the things that they would recommend. Ask them if they have advice. And you can also talk to your peers that are currently in grad school. So if you know people that are in grad school, you should feel free to reach out to them and ask them any questions. And certainly our grad student ambassadors would be able to advise you and help you as well. It's really important also to have an understanding of how U.S. admissions committees work. And this can differ between doctoral and master's programs. And so it's really important to note that, especially at a school like Rice, admissions is decentralized. And what that means is every program makes their own decision about admissions. So they're making their own offers of admission, and there's no real central overview. And that means every program can do things a little bit differently. And so you really need to keep this in mind when you're thinking about, your documents that you're preparing for your application. You want to keep in mind who your audience is. For PhD programs, a lot of the time, that's going to be a committee made up of faculty members. Often it's junior faculty because they're trying to build their labs and grow and pursue new research. For a master's program, a lot of the times the admission is centralized. There might be 1 or 2 people or a small committee of people making decisions for a number of master's programs at one time. And so really you have to think about who your audience is going to be. Committees also may need to be educated by you. So, if you're using a different GPA system at your university, or if your university may not be well known outside of your area, but it's doing some really great things in certain fields of study, really important to let admissions committees know that in the application process and help them understand what you can do, what your university is known for, and put all of that out there. Next slide, please. Okay, so the big question, what degree is right for me? This is a really personal question. It's very individual, and you really should weigh the options carefully so that you have all the information that you need to make the best choice for yourself. This is a general breakdown of the types of degrees that are typically offered in the US. So a doctoral degree is a thesis-based degree. Typically, this can take 4 to 6 years to complete, but in the US, these are typically fully funded and offer a stipend. So what it means to be in a PhD program in the US, usually your tuition is waived, you pay no tuition, and you get paid a stipend that's supposed to support your cost of living. And at Rice University, the minimum stipend is $32,000 a year. And so it's enough to live comfortably within the Houston area. Another thing that's important to point out is that no master's degree is required to go to a PhD. So at Rice, you can go to the PhD directly from your bachelor's degree. If you already have a master's degree, you're welcome to apply to a PhD as well, but just know that it's not needed to have a master's degree. So the research-based master's degrees, these are a little more rare at Rice, but these can be common at other universities. These are usually thesis degrees that can be earned in 2 years. And at Rice, most of the time, you earn the master's as part of the PhD program. Sometimes funding can be available for a research master's, but you might have to take an RA position, a research assistant, or a TA position, a teaching assistant, to earn your stipend as part of that program. So really important question that you need to be asking if you're planning on applying to a research master's. And then a professional master's degree would be, for example, like an MBA. So this is a non-thesis degree, but it really provides an edge in industry. And so the downside is that you usually have to pay the full tuition. There's not usually scholarships or fellowships that are part of this. But the reason for that is they know that you're going to graduate and go off and make a lot more money. So that's the trade-off there. So, and next slide, please. So some notes, just continuing this discussion of master's versus PhD. If you do plan on hopefully getting a faculty position, you will need a PhD for that typically. Just to reiterate also that some universities may not offer both a master's and a PhD. So for example, our political science department only offers a PhD. There's no master's degree there. But if you wanted to go straight to the PhD, Totally fine to do that directly from your bachelor's degree. I would also encourage you to not be too discriminating in what the program is called. So there's going to be a lot of universities that will offer degrees that sound similar, but they might be a little bit different, but overall they're related. So for example, international relations and global affairs, I wouldn't get too hung up on the program name, especially if you're pursuing a research degree. It's really more important to think about what the faculty are working on and what research projects you can participate in. Next slide, please. All right, so researching research, we'll get a little bit more into the research degrees here. Like we said, if you have a specific subfield in mind, if you know you want to be an environmental engineer and you want to do water research, make sure you look for universities that really are doing a lot with water. Look for schools who offer these areas, who have a number of faculty you would be happy to work for. Otherwise, it might not be a great fit for a university. Keep in mind that competitive applications can look really different across these areas. And so really think about reaching out to the program, reaching out to grad students currently in the program at the university you want to study at, and asking them for their advice or their recommendations. And they'll typically be very happy to do that. How do you know what you want to study? That's a really hard question. A lot of us have many interests. A lot of us don't know how to narrow down our interests. And so it can be something that you're not quite sure about yet, and that's okay. So Astrid, for example, is in a very interdisciplinary field, and there's a lot of overlap in the work that she's doing with different departments. And so sometimes it's really more about finding the faculty member versus finding, the field. What is a faculty member doing, and what projects do they have that you'd be happy in? I know I keep saying that, but it's really important to think about. Research experience can be important, especially if you're going to want to pursue a research degree, but please note that experience can take a lot of forms. We have students who come in every year from industry who thrive in the research environment with very little research experience, and that's great. And we just want you to be able to showcase your potential to conduct research. That's the most important thing with the application. Next slide, please. So we also get asked a lot about the applicant profile. And so some of the things that are important are listed here, of course, but this is not the end all be all. Just think about yourself and presenting yourself as a well-rounded person. We really want students who will be happy here, who will contribute to our campus community. And each campus is unique, and it's going to be a little bit different wherever you are. So just think about all of the unique, wonderful things each of you brings to the table and think about how you can portray that to a university. Certainly, we want our students to be academically ready. We want you to be able to succeed and thrive in the fields that you've chosen to study in. Excellent writing. We talked about grad school being a lot of writing. So certainly if you can brush up on your writing and start to read those journals and understand what grad writing is like, that's going to be really important as well. Involvement in leadership is always great to show. Like we talked about wanting students to be an active part of our campus community. And certainly if you can show that in your application, that's a great thing as well. Next slide, please. Okay, components of the application. So we'll talk about a few of these things more in depth, but generally what you see here is what makes up a U.S. graduate school application. Transcripts, these are going to be your academic records for any institution that you've attended. And you don't need the official transcripts to apply. You can go ahead and apply with the unofficial transcripts and then worry about the final transcripts later. The GRE. So the graduate record examination is becoming less common for U.S. institutions. Certainly many of us, there are still plenty of institutions that do require it, but at Rice we have broadly waived this, and we'll talk more about the GRE soon. English proficiency for students coming from a different country at Rice, you can choose between TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo. I know I personally would choose Duolingo only because I have heard it's the most affordable and I love a good deal. So something to keep in mind if you're trying to figure out what test you want to take. Application fees is something that you're going to usually need to pay for, but I will waive this for you today, and I'll share at the end some instructions for how you can get that waiver. Proof of financial support is something that you may be asked for if you apply to a master's degree. For example, MBA programs will often ask you for this. And the reason that they ask you for it, of course, the first reason is that they want to show you to show that you can afford to pay for the tuition, but really they want to be able to see that you can live comfortably while pursuing this degree. They don't want you to be taking out debt that's unmanageable. They want you to be able to be comfortable. Letters of recommendation. Usually at different schools, this is about 3 letters of recommendation. Sometimes you might be asked for more, sometimes less, but we'll talk about the letters and what you need to be asking for from your recommenders. Your personal statement or your statement of purpose. These terms are somewhat interchangeable, but this is probably the most important document you will write for your graduate application, because it is your chance to speak directly to the admissions committee. So really, this is a highly personalized document that you should be tailoring for every university you apply to. And we'll talk more about that. Your CV or your resume, just kind of outlining your academic and your work experience, and then any research experience you have, publications, things like that. This is not required, but it's always great to be able to show if you have it. Next slide, please. Okay, GRE, a little bit more about the GRE. So this is a general test for graduate admissions that many universities require. Rice used to require the GRE up until about 3 years ago, and COVID had made it more and more difficult to be able to take the exam. And so our advice typically is, if you take the GRE and you have scores that you're proud of, certainly you can submit them. But if the university is waiving the GRE, there's a good chance that they will not look at your scores at all. So we would recommend not submitting them if you feel that you don't want to share those scores. But if you do take the GRE, take it at least 1 month before your earliest application deadline, because it does take time for those scores to get back to the universities that you're applying to. And know that, we always get asked about what kind of GRE score do I need to get into Rice? And we don't really have data for that, simply because it varies so much from program to program, and also because so many programs don't even look at them. So hard to say, and know that just if you're going to take the GRE, try your best, go into it with an open mind, and know that ultimately, if you don't want to submit those scores, you really usually don't need to. Next slide, please. So recommendation letters. These are also really important messages to the admissions committee. And so be thoughtful about who you want to speak for you, and think about, who the people that you can reach out to. For PhD applications, academic letters are preferred because they want to hear from people who know what you can accomplish academically. And so have at least 1 letter from a professor or a research advisor. That would be my recommendation. Make sure that you review the submission requirements carefully before you reach out to your recommenders, and let them know those deadlines. The deadline that you give them doesn't have to be the same as the application deadline, so just keep that in mind. If you want to give your recommenders an earlier deadline, certainly I would encourage you to do that. One thing I would also recommend is, when you reach out to them, attach your CV to the email and send maybe a bulleted highlight reel of what you've done recently. That's going to help them write the letter. I'd also let them know what your deadline for their letter is, and then let them know you're going to be following up with them regularly to keep them on track and make sure that that letter gets submitted on time. Next slide, please. Statement of purpose, like we talked about, really, really important document. And so make sure that you tailor it to every school that you're applying to. Don't use the same letter. Make sure that you're really talking about your journey to graduate school. Talk about what you want to do in this program, why this university, why these faculty members. I definitely would list in your statement of purpose, if you're doing a research degree, faculty members you want to work with. I would list maybe 2 to 3 within your letter of people, like names of people that you'd want to work with. Show your command of language. Make sure that you follow all of the directions that they give you. Try and say as much as you can with as few words as possible, and really talk about your goals as well. So, your journey to grad school, why this program, What do you ultimately want to do with this degree after you leave the university? What do you see yourself doing in the future? So really important to showcase all of these things and really show off that you are a good, strong writer and you're prepared for all that grad school writing. Next slide, please. Okay, faculty matches. Again, with the research programs, a lot of times you'll hear students asking, do I need to write to faculty in advance? Do I need to have a faculty match? In the United States, and particularly for doctoral degrees, it is pretty common to approach faculty you want to work with in the future. And so certainly you can email faculty and talk to them about your interests. In some programs, it's more essential to make this connection than others. So for example, in Chen Ying's program, it's really required for students who are applying to the program to find a faculty member within the program to essentially sponsor them. And if they are granted admission, then that person would become their advisor. Some other programs will accept cohorts of students. So you're accepted as part of a group, and you'll have the opportunity to find an advisor within the first year or so. So things to think about here. But we would encourage you either way to reach out to faculty members that you might be interested in. But how do you reach out to them? So good question, and we'll have that on the next slide. So the easiest thing to do to reach out to faculty members is to send an email. Think about the kind of email you would want to receive. So be engaging, ask them thoughtful questions about their research, and make sure that you do your homework. Read the things that they're researching, think about what their lab is doing, and look through their lab website to learn more about this program. Sell yourself, just like you did with your recommenders. Attach your CV. Kind of bullet out a highlight reel of what you have been doing in the past few years while you've been pursuing your degree. Really important to talk about yourself and your goals as well. And then, of course, another opportunity to educate faculty, right? Talk about your university. If you are in the top of your class, make sure that you mention that as well. All of these things are really important to note also. But I think the most important thing to note is don't be discouraged if you don't get a response. So your goal really is to put yourself out there, put your name out there, and hopefully when these faculty members are reviewing applications, they can say, oh, Jennifer reached out to me and she had a really nice email. It was very flattering to me, and I want to learn more about her and read her application carefully. So make sure to kind of follow these tips. A little flattery with faculty always goes a long way. Next slide, please. Okay, so what do you want to show an admissions committee? The most important thing, show who you are. You, like we have said, you all bring unique skills to the table. Show off those skills and show off who you are in all of the parts of your application. I would also recommend, if there's ways for you to show your persistence, your perseverance, you should show that as well, because grad school, as our students know, can be a lot of ups and downs. And you want to show that you have the grit to get through that and to keep going and to persevere. Even when your experiments fail, you still need to go and try again. So that's really important to show. Showing your motivations and your journey, also really important, right? So in the statement of purpose, when we talked about the journey to grad school, what you want to do within the program, and then what you want to do after. These are all really important to tell an admissions committee. And then show that you're committed, show why this is the path that you want. Like we talked about, it's really sometimes comes down to grit. Next slide, please. So timeline for PhD. Usually in September is when applications open, but you can start preparing now. I know one of you is thinking about fall 2024 admission, and so you can go ahead and think about your statement of purpose, what you want to say, who do you want your recommenders to be? And so these are really good things you could even start preparing for now. In October, I would encourage you, if you're going to take the GRE, to take it then, or your any other English tests. And then, of course, recommenders need to submit those letters. November and December is really when application deadlines are. So make sure that you're following all those directions and getting your applications in, and make sure that you verify those application deadlines, because I have heard of programs changing those sometimes. So very important to be vigilant and make sure you stay on top of all those things. January and February is typically for PhD, when you might get an invitation to campus or invitation to interview. And then, of course, in March, you should be hearing from your programs that you've applied to. So it is a little bit of a longer process, but you will have guides with Education USA along the way that will be able to help you and help you guide through this, this whole process. Next slide, please. So final notes, make sure that your application is complete before you submit it. Make sure everything is uploaded. I would save and name all your documents properly. Every year we get applications from students who say, this is my Stanford application. I'm very excited to join your university. I would love to help them with that, but we are Rice University and I'm not going to be able to do that. So make sure that you name everything correctly and you have everything ready to go. Application fee waivers exist. Grad school can be expensive. The application process can be expensive, and I don't like to pay any extra money for anything. And I can imagine that others would feel the same. So if you want to ask for an application fee waiver, certainly you can. It will not count against you. The worst thing a university can say is no. And so please feel free to ask for those as well. And then submit early if you can. It gets it out of your mind. It gets it into the university's hands. A little bit less to worry about during that November, December timeframe. So if you can submit early, I would encourage you to do that. Next slide, please. Resources. The best thing that you can do is educate yourself on all of the resources available. Ask as many questions as you need to get the information that you need. Talk to as many people as possible, not just grad students, not just faculty. Talk to staff members. Often they're the ones doing all the logistics behind the scenes. They are very good friends to have. So make sure that you know those contacts for the programs you're applying to and what they do. Thank you letters can go a long way with all of the parties that we have talked about. So if you want to show appreciation for someone, certainly that can always help help your name stick in their mind as well. Make sure you sign up for mailing lists. Make sure you stay in connection with Education USA. Attend the webinars that they're having, attend the workshops that they're having. Again, they are the experts in this and they will be able to guide you through every process of the application, every part of the application. And so make sure that you stay in contact with them as well. Okay, that might be my last slide, but let's see if there's one left. That's it. So this is my direct email. For Aaron and Beatriz and Eladio and Julieta, if you'd like to email me and request a fee waiver, please do. I'm very happy to add that to your record and have that waiting for you if you'd like to apply to grad school at Rice. So that's all I've got.
Great. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Absolutely.
Chongying and Astrid. All right, so next is our Q&A session. So if any of you have any questions about the presentation or Education USA or whatever questions you have, go ahead and put them in the chat box and we'll answer them. You haven't put any questions yet, so I'll give you a chance to think about it for a minute. In the meantime, I'll just give a quick information on opportunity funds. So if you are not familiar with opportunity funds, this is I'll say it's a type of scholarship that we at Education USA give out. This scholarship provides economic support to highly qualified students. What it does is it covers upfront costs of applying for an undergraduate or graduate program, which means it covers the cost for testing, application fees, airfare, translations. It'll cover the cost of preparation for your exams, and most of the costs that are related to applying to a U.S. university. So it doesn't cover tuition, housing, health insurance, books. So basically, once you arrive in the United States, that's when the Opportunity Funds scholarship ends. So also I should mention, this fund does not apply for medicine, veterinary, and odontology fields. STEM fields have a priority, and application deadline is on the 13th of February. So you have a little under 2 weeks. So go ahead, and if you're interested, go to this address right below Opportunity Funds, bit.ly/opportunitymex, and read the information there. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and contact me. I'll put my my contact information in the next slide. There it is. So if you have any questions about anything or the opportunity funds, you can write to me at monterrey@educationusa.org. Follow us on social media, where we're constantly posting information about the admissions process, on opportunities, on scholarships, on more of these webinars and sessions that we have in person. Also, our resource link is this one right here, below the Instagram account, and in the bottom we added our new podcast. So you can search for us in Spotify. We have the Education USA Voices Mexico podcast. So back to questions. Okay, so Jennifer's email. You can also email me. All right. So, all right, Aaron. Okay, so Aaron asks, how different is the application process to a professional master's MBA to the one of a research master's?
Yeah, so the components of the application are probably going to be pretty similar, but the evaluation process is going to be a little bit different. And so my understanding is that the research degrees are going to be a little bit more in depth because of course, there's funding attached to it. There's the potential to be sort of interviewing with PIs or with advisors. And so there's an element of that as well. Overall, I would say the process for MBA is probably going to be much more cut and dry. And the process for research degrees is going to be a little bit more in depth, a little bit more talking to faculty for sure. And, more about the research and less about the coursework, the academics. But great question.
Great. All right. We have another question. You're welcome, Aaron. Julieta says, I have experience on research, but I am interested in another field for my graduate degree. Will that affect my application?
Yeah, so generally the answer is going to be no, especially if the field that you want to pursue for your graduate degree is somewhat similar. If it's in, if you have done a degree in STEM or research experience in STEM and you're pursuing a STEM graduate degree, there's going to be overlap there. The biggest thing that they want to see is that you have experience in the research process, that you kind of know what that process is like. But I'm kind of curious, so for Julieta, what fields do you have experience in, and then what do you want to pivot to?
All right. While Julieta answers your question, Jennifer, we'll address Eladio's question, which is, what does STEAM mean? STEAM. I'm not sure if you wanted to say STEM, but there is also STEAM, STEAM. So I don't know, you want to take that one as well, Jennifer?
Sure. Yeah. So we usually reference it as STEM, and that just essentially means, science, tech, engineering, math, those kinds of fields. The A that people put in for STEAM is arts. So there's a good mix of that at Rice as well. We have a great music school, great architecture school, and fine arts programs for the undergrads. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, Eladio.
Great. So yes, and basically anything that has to do with science, technology, education, and math is STEM. Science, technology, education, arts, and math is STEAM. You're very welcome, Eladio.
And I see Julieta. Yes, she has experience in aerospace, but wants electrical. I think those are really related fields that can have a lot of overlap. And I see Astrid nodding as well. She's kind of seen that happen here at Rice, but I think that it would be a great fit. And certainly the research that you've done in aerospace would well apply to electrical engineering. And Chunying Astrid, sorry if I'm talking over you. Please feel free to chime in as well. I would hate to speak over you all.
I will say just briefly that you can show what you have learned and how that will be valuable for electrical engineering. For example, I changed from chemistry to material science. And it's a little bit different because we have more engineering now, but at the end, you already know how to do research. Just changing the field, but you already have the experience.
Yeah, I have a similar experience. It's like I got my bachelor and master's degree in chemical engineering, and right now I'm doing the environmental engineering PhD program. The common things is I doing the research keep on the same path, and I keep working on the same field about air pollution. So yeah, I don't think it's very big issue about the different measure of your research and your PhD.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I don't see any more questions, so I'd like to wrap this up. Thanking you very much, Jennifer, Chunying, Astrid, and all of you that came here to our webinar. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Well, Jennifer, any last words?
Thank you so much. Please do reach out if you have questions. We're always happy to help.
All right, Chunying unmuted to wave. Astrid, any last words?
Well, thank you for being here. And for example, if you have questions, and I understand that sometimes language can be a barrier, you can email me and like we can speak in Spanish if you want to.
Yes, I'm sorry for talking so fast. It's the worst habit that I have, I think.
No problem whatsoever. Our listeners are usually pretty well in English. So thank you again very much. Thank you, everybody. That's it for tonight. See you in the next one.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.